Genji 2 is an action game which is based on Japanese. Being based on the stages of the game will also be based on famous which actually took place in ancient Japan. For example, so here's this giant enemy, but not only that, they will also be able to new and interesting ways to enemy bosses. And you attack its weak for massive damage.
Ridge Racer! Remember that?
Now that's Butterworthy.
What's up, guys? Jamie Butterworth here. Now, this is something that I haven't really been seeing anybody else discussing, which I think really warrants a lot of in-depth discussion. I'm not going to preach that I'm all-knowing on this, that I know a whole lot about it, or that I'm an expert here, but it's something we need to talk about, and if I can get a conversation started, let's get it started. So, Sony has put out a new policy last month regarding censorship. So, a lot of things that involve sexual themes, like Senran Kagura, Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 3 that's coming out, and a lot of other games that come particularly from Japanese developers, have been hit by this new censorship policy. So, like, bikinis have to be changed to a different outfit, or they have to put light streaks over top of, bikinis, things like that, or underwear, panties, bras, whatever else. And meanwhile, we've got the same games that are coming out to the Switch, or already on the Switch, that don't have that censorship. So why is Sony instituting these new censorship rules? And that's kind of the primary question. Now, Sony also recently, in the past year, have moved their headquarters from Tokyo, Japan, which has been their home country, to California. What does that mean exactly? Well, it kind of shows that Sony's putting much less of an emphasis on the Japanese market over the US and other Western markets. What does this mean as far as what's going forward? Well, it seems, in my opinion, and from what I've read of others, that Sony is really trying to have their own ecosystem altogether, and they're trying to corner their own portion of the market as if they, don't have a big enough share as it is. And the thing is, I think what it shows is a lot of arrogance on Sony's part. What? Sony arrogant? You're telling me that Sony gets arrogant now and again? Yeah. Why do you think that they are down to only a few divisions compared to what they used to be? Sony doesn't produce TVs anymore. Sony doesn't produce computers anymore. Sony doesn't produce cameras anymore. There's good reasons for that, aside from the cats behind me. The reasons they don't is because they took they made a lot of really dumb decisions with those, particularly things like media that they had produced. So, like, their cameras had to take their own specific SD cards or their own specific memory cards instead of SD. So, whenever they release a new line of cameras, they would also release a new line of memory cards to go with it. So every few years, you had to get completely new memory cards with your Sony products in order to just use them. And they were oftentimes exorbitantly expensive. I mean, you can see that with the PSP and PS Vita cards as well. And that was a dumb decision, being that likely cost them their camera division as well, because their electronics had always been overpriced. Yeah, their name was synonymous with quality ever since the Walkman in the 80s. And so people would line up just to buy Sony products because it had the Sony name directly on it. So it got to a point where they were just being arrogant about that. Anything Sony, they would just put it out there. They stopped checking over their the most important aspects. They put out a premium product like Apple, but Sony, unlike Apple, didn't really become a status symbol. So when they started to make dumb decisions and their products started to get undercut by their competitors who would put out better quality products at a lower price, that's what would cost them in their TV division, in their computer division, in their camera division, all of that. So now we've come to a point where all they have left is Sony Films, which they've been talking about possibly selling off for a while now, and the PlayStation division. And I think at this point, Sony as a company is doubling and tripling down on the PlayStation division. Like they've been pushing for a while now to make PlayStation into a service, PlayStation Now or PlayStation View, PlayStation VR, all that stuff. And I've seen it where they've actually contracted out to have PlayStation Now, or not PlayStation Now, what is it, PlayStation View, I think? The streaming service, not the game streaming, but like movie, video streaming, whatever else, actually put it into some televisions so you can access PlayStation without having to have an actual PlayStation. And I think that's what their whole theory is moving forward. Like, if they can get all these developers, particularly in their camp, following their specific rules, moving forward, they can dictate how the industry itself moves. And I think it's a gamble that, again, like they usually do, is going to end up failing. Let's go back a console generation with the PlayStation 3. Because you had the PlayStation 1 come out, and it had good competition, but it still stomped everybody in the 32-bit generation. PlayStation 2 came out, and it had little to no actual competition. It outsold just about every console, period, that's ever been made. And then we had PlayStation 3 come out, and they were arrogant about it. They made terrible decisions with the architecture, with the pricing, with a lot of the games released on it, all of that. And Microsoft came out with an incredibly developer-friendly system that was inexpensive, that had a lot of user-friendly aspects to it, and they trounced the PlayStation 3 up until towards the end of the PlayStation 3's lifetime. And then we come to the current generation, and we have Microsoft that came out of the box arrogant because of the Xbox 360 success. And they got slapped down again by Sony, who had been thankfully humbled a little bit by the PlayStation 3. So now we've got PlayStation 4, which is wildly successful again, so much more so than the Xbox One. And of course over the Wii U, and the Switch is giving it a run for its money, but still the PlayStation 4 is still getting all the big premier, AAA games. So Sony, looking at their sales, looking at the games they're getting, and they're getting arrogant again. And this time, I think they're trying to stretch it too far. So I don't know exactly where they're going to go with this. I don't know exactly what their plans are. But I have a feeling it's really dumb. I mean, honestly, I want Sony to be successful. I had a PlayStation 4 for years up until recently. And the only reason I got rid of it was so that I could buy a Switch for my cousin. To kind of reward her for just being, like, awesome to me for the past few months. And plus she was dying to play Super Mario Party, so I had to get that for her. But the thing is, Sony is getting arrogant again. They are essentially, with this policy, with their move to California, they're effectively ceding the Japanese market to Nintendo. Because Nintendo, all those developers that are in Japan, they're just going to push all their games over to the Switch. Because Nintendo is just going to let them put out whatever they want to, and they're not going to be censored like crazy. Another example I saw was like in Breath of the Wild, you could name your horse whatever you want. They don't care. But Red Dead Redemption 2 on PlayStation, you can't name your horse bad names. From what I've seen. I haven't played it. I don't care to play Red Dead. If you love it, that's great. Tons of people do. But on that one point, from what I have seen, it censors your horse's name. It's crazy. But I don't even know if it's a Sony policy or Rockstar just was something like, hey, let's ignore our entire pedigree and make it so you can't name your horse a bad name. I don't even get that. But anyway, I think Sony is being incredibly arrogant. They're going to make a really dumb move before you know it. Mark my words on that. And chances are, like they've been looking to go for a while, and like they've been expanding to, they're going to move further and further away from actual hardware, and they're trying to have an entire ecosystem to themselves. So, I don't think it's really going to play out that well, but we'll see where things go, and I'll be interested to hear your opinion. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and watching the video. I always appreciate you. Come to the dark side. You have cats. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in for the video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jamie Butterworth. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell if you like to hit the bell. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Always appreciate your views. and your comments, likes, dislikes, whatever you want to do. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.